Is America a beacon of light to the world, a city on a hill, or is it a power-hungry bully that seeks to impose its will on others? That, as one of the people in our comments has already said even before we came live here, is more of a rhetorical question than an actual question, and that grieves me. And I'll just tell you right up front before I even get into this that this is going to be an emotional episode for me to do, and I'll do my best to keep my composure because I'm struggling both with a lot of anger and with a lot of emotion and grief and sorrow. And I think you'll see why as we get further into this episode here. I served, as you know, in the Armed Forces of the United States for a career, 21 plus years, 4 combat deployments. I have loved this country. I signed up as in my patriotic duty because I wanted to serve our country. I wanted to be one of the guys that helped protect our way of life and keep regular people free and prosperous, so they didn't ever have to worry about themselves seeing war. That's what I intended to do. And I had seen throughout my life so many wonderful American people, great American people. I'd look back in our history about so many great things that we had done and so much righteousness that we had in days gone by. And of course, I'm not naive. We've never been flawless, and we've always had some ugly spots here and there, even in the best of times. So I want to be clear on that. But there has been, by and large, a lot of goodness for our country. We have periodically sacrificed our lives and our money and resources for the benefit of others. And I've always been proud of that. We are in a place now to where that pride has been badly tarnished. And it's not just a matter of pride that what's going on here. This is starting to creep into something that is dangerous and nefarious to our own existence. And I'm talking about from within. I'm not necessarily talking about something external, though it could end up there. I'm talking about the spirit, the nature, the soul of our country from within has some cancerous position or pieces to it. Something that I want to identify today. You can't cure cancer unless you, first of all, are aware that you have it, because there's some cells that, if left unchecked, can consume the body from the inside. And that's where we are. And this is why this is such an alarming video, what I'm about to make for you here, because we are in a very dangerous position, and not just for us, but for others as well. And I want to see America get back to that place where we, again, are a beacon of light and of hope to others, where we stand up for what's right, where we stand for the powerless and the weak, and we help out people where we can, and we don't unnecessarily provoke others around us. Those are the things that historically have been the American spirit that's animated us. Even in our weakness, even in our mistakes, we still did that. We're starting to lose that. We damn well better get it back very, very quickly before this goes too much into the dark area. So the point at hand right now is the fact that President Biden has announced that he is considering withholding weapons and ammunition from Israel if they continue to go down their path that they have been going in the civilian population of Palestine, specifically related to an offensive in Gaza. There has been some delay so far, but there has not been an overt stoppage at this point. But that has elicited some very interesting responses that we're going to be showing you here in a minute. But first of all, let's back up a few days. This is what Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin indicated was the administration's position just a few days ago.
We've also been very clear about the steps that we'd like to see Israel take to account for and take care of those civilians before major combat takes place. We certainly would like to see no major combat take place in Rafah, but certainly our focus is on making sure that we protect the civilians.
Okay, seems pretty straightforward. We are for Israel. We're for the defense of Israel, but it matters how they conduct their operation. And just as a reminder, the attack, a horrible terrorist attack that took place on October 7th against the Israeli people was black and white, a terrorist event that killed a lot of civilians and military people. And by every right on the planet, Israel had the right to go and defend themselves. The full stop, no question about it. But as I have said every time we talk about this, It does matter how they go about doing it. That does not give you a blank check to literally do anything you want in response, especially to other innocent people. That should be self-evident. It shouldn't even have to be said out loud. It should be obvious that that's the case. Unfortunately, it does have to be said. Now, I think it may have been last night. We'll see in just a second. But President Biden was interviewed by CNN, and they wanted to ask him, get some clarity and some details on exactly what he's thinking, because Austin's Secretary of Defense, but he gets his information from the Commander in Chief, who said this.
If they go into Rafah, they haven't gone into Rafah yet. If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah, to deal with the cities, to deal with that problem. We're going to continue to make sure Israel is secure in terms of Iron Dome and their ability to respond to attacks like came out of the Middle East recently. But it's just wrong. We're not going to supply the weapons and the artillery shells used that have been used.
Artillery shells as well.
Yeah, artillery shells. I've made it clear to Bibi and the War Cabinet, they're not going to get our support if, in fact, they go in these population centers. We're not walking away from Israel's security. We're walking away from Israel's ability to wage war in those areas.
So it's not over your red line yet?
Not yet, but we've held up the weapons. We've held up the one shipment as an old shipment designed. We've held that up.
Now, if you've been watching our channel for any amount of time at all, you know that we've shown so many times over the last number of months to where the White House says one thing and then the Israeli side comes back and sticks a thumb in our nose or a finger in our eye or pokes us in the chest and tells us, oh, yeah, who's really going on? We've warned about this or that. And Israel just says, yeah, whatever. They do what they want and there hasn't been any consequences. Like when they hit they broke all historic diplomatic norms and blew up a diplomatic compound in Damascus. We're silent. We don't do anything at all. And then we subsequently give them this huge $26 billion aid package after that. So what's the message that's going to come across there? So belatedly, at least Biden is now finally, after around 7 months now over 7 months since the war started, and somewhere around 110,000 civilians have been killed and wounded that we know of. There's so many more that could be hidden under the rubble that are missing that almost certainly that number is much higher. But so he's belatedly saying, okay, we're still saying we're for the defense of Israel. He point blank said that. He's talking about withholding if they go into Rafah, which is this city that's only supposed to hold about 250,000, and it's now about 1.5 million squashed in there. So there's really nowhere for the people to go, even though they've been given evacuation orders. Leave to where? They don't know where they can go to even have the basics of life after that. So that's a big problem. But again, he gets a little bit of credit for finally going through to say we might withhold something. Others are saying, yeah, it's about time for that. So one of his own party, Senator Bernie Sanders, said, okay, yeah, sure. We actually agree with that. And in fact, maybe he thinks it's also a little overdue. Here's what he said.
A strong majority of the American people do not want to see more U.S. taxpayer dollars going to Netanyahu's destruction of the Palestinian people. We all understand Hamas is a terrorist organization that started the war. In my view, Israel has the right to go to war against Hamas. They do not have a right to go to war in the way they are against the Palestinian people. And most Americans now feel the same way.
And that's reasonable and understandable. So after 9/11, we were hit, and the Al Qaeda, who we all, as far as we all know, we're told is conducted this. They were being harbored in Afghanistan by the Taliban. So we gave them this ultimatum. And then people understood. They said, okay, yeah, we're going to go in and take care of those folks there. But even when we went in there, nobody said, yeah, all those people who were, with the Taliban in Afghanistan, they should all be killed. So let's just wipe them all out. No, we said, let's go after the perpetrators who did this. And wherever they were at, whether they were in Afghanistan, Kabul, or Kandahar, wherever they were at, Tora Bora. So let's go after the people that did it where they were and protect the population. Now, as I've also told you many times, and I certainly saw firsthand myself, we did a pretty poor job of that very often, and ended up harming some of the people that we were there to help. But our objective and intentions really were to protect the population, and we really did try to do that to a large extent. Israel is not doing anything remotely like that, as you're going to see in a minute. That's not by accident, or it's actually by design. But before we get there, we start to get into some of the problem. Now, that's what the president and his secretary of defense and a member of his party in the Senate has said. But the political opposition is viewing things very different. Here's, I think, the number 3 ranking Republican in the Senate, John Thune, has a rather limited view of what the president's trying to do.
They continue to attack Israel. There have been a direct attacks by Iran against Israel, and the United States needs to stand shoulder to shoulder with our ally Israel, which is why it's particularly disturbing that the Biden administration is withholding military aid from Israel.
Okay, there's tremendous lack of context for his statements there. And we're going to see that's also a continuing theme, in that he said, Israel's been attacked. He may have been referring to October, but I think in that context, he was actually talking about the Iranian attack on the 13th of April, as though it were out of nowhere, as though it were just for no good reason. Bam, here comes the Iranians, those wicked mullahs, whatever, just attack Israel. So Israel is a victim, and we can't leave them alone in their hour of need. That's the implication, ignoring completely that attack was expressly in response to the violation of every rule that exists in the international order that we claim to support, when they destroyed a diplomatic compound in Damascus of the Iranians. So it's not only wasn't surprising, it was entirely predictable. And I assure you, and this is not theoretical because we've done it, when our embassy was hit in the past, we took decisive action, and even more strongly than the Iranians did, and certainly with more effect. So to ignore that completely and then say you're disturbed because we're thinking about withholding weapons and ammunition from Israel. And now also it's without context as to why. Both Biden and Austin were very explicit and clear, because of the significant number of Palestinian women, men, children, old people that have been paying this excruciating price. It's not just the 110,000 that have been killed and wounded. It's the fact that their ability to survive in the entire Gaza Strip, all 2.1 million people who are still alive, has been wiped out. There's no way to even live right now. They are 100% dependent on external food supply to even live. And as we've shown you a week or so ago, some of the World Food Bank people are telling us that they could literally start starving to death within weeks from now if the situation is not alleviated immediately. It's that serious right now. And it's self-evident. All these video clips that Gary's showing right now, I mean, you can see them on social media every day. There's new ones every single day. It's self-evident that there's a big issue going on here. Why was John Thune not even mentioning that, as though it didn't exist? He's trying to make it sound like, to everyone who's listening to him, as though here's poor Israel being attacked on every side, and we're talking about withholding weapons. What's going on? Well, this is what's going on. What you see on the screen right now, that's what's going on. Why is that hard to get? That's always been a hallmark of the American people, right or left, Republican, Democrat, it hadn't mattered. We care about people, just basic humanity. And we always want to defend those who have been beaten and killed, who are powerless. And yet here they're not even getting mentioned. Now that's bad. And it's troubling to me that such a high-ranking member of the U.S. Senate is losing the context there and trying to convince others that there's something wrong with what the government is doing, to even put tiny breaks and tiny little potential red lines on what our weapons are going into. And our laws, by the way, explicitly demand that when we give any weapons and ammunition, that it not break our laws, that it not break international laws, especially precisely when it comes to human relations and humanitarian needs. You can't kill somebody, innocent people, with weapons that we give, or we won't give them. That's what our law says. John Thune didn't mention that either. But as bad as that was, folks, it's about to get a lot worse. And I'm going to do my best to compose myself following this clip. But what you're about to see is another senator, Lindsey Graham, who is going to be just completely devoid of any basic humanity. Well, I'll let him speak for himself.
Would you have supported dropping the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, General Brown, to end World War II?
Well, Senator, I think just based on the situation where the
Well, we know. I mean, it's happened. We know. I'm not asking. They did it. Do you think that was disproportionate?
it was definitely
Well, do you, in hindsight, do you think that was the right decision for America to drop 2 atomic bombs on the Japanese cities in question?
well, I'll tell you, it stopped the World War.
Okay, so Israel's been hit in the last few weeks by Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas, dedicated to their destruction. And you're telling me you're going to tell them how to fight the war and what they can and can't use when everybody around them wants to kill all the Jews? And you're telling me that if we withhold weapons in this fight, the existential fight for the life of the Jewish state, it won't send the wrong signal? Do you still think it was a good idea, General Austin, to get out of Afghanistan?
I support the president's decision.
Yeah, I think you do. I think it was a disastrous decision. If we stop weapons necessary to destroy the enemies of the state of Israel at a time of great peril, we will pay a price. This is obscene. It is absurd. Give Israel what they need to fight the war they can't afford to lose.
Obscene and absurd. About the only thing with Lindsey Graham I agree with. Just where the target of what's obscene and absurd lie, somewhat different. And I put that squarely on his chest. It is grotesque and just reprehensible to the highest order that a United States senator will actually stand there and tell you in public and use his fist and be emphatic that he idolizes the killing of hundreds of thousands of Japanese in World War II, that they were killed, and now saying that should be the template, and now it should come over here. We were in a world war, and there's a lot of debate about whether that was actually necessary or not, or what the morality of it. And I won't get into that right now, but it is still very hotly debated. There's no debate in Lindsey Graham's mind. He's cool with killing large numbers of innocent people. He said it was done in World War II, and why can't it be done here? So he has no regard for the basic humanity. And this is even more egregious than even that, because you're talking about they are literally trapped in the fence in Gaza. These people can't go anywhere. They are totally at the mercy of everything that's happening all around them. And he has the audacity to compare a nuclear holocaust and suggesting and with just being outraged that the United States and a current administration has the audacity to even talk about limiting the amount of ordnance that can be thrown on this captive population. It is just shocking and reprehensible to me that that's where we are. And it's not just here either, I'm afraid, because there are others in Israel that are right in step with Lindsey Graham. And here, what you're about to see, you'll have to read the subtitles, so they're kind of small on the bottom of the screen. We're doing the best we can, but this just gives you a glimpse of what's going on inside. You're not going to see these on the mainstream media. I've never seen anything like what you're about to see, especially these next two. But folks, you need to know this is what's going on. So there's Lindsey Graham, which was carried out by our media. Now what you're going to see is how that's mirrored on the other side of this equation. This is what a member of the Knesset said just a couple of days ago.
ארצות הברית מאיימת שלא תיתן לנו טילים מדויקים. וואלה, יש לי חדשות לארצות הברית. יש לנו טילים לא מדויקים, ויש לנו את הזכות להתגונן. אז אולי במקום להשתמש בטיל מדויק ולהוריד חדר ספציפי, או בניין ספציפי, אני אשתמש בטילים הלא מדויקים שלי, ואני פשוט אמוטט 10 בניינים. 10 בניינים. 10 בניינים. זה מה שאני אעשה.
I still, it's disturbing to me to see someone so wild-eyed and emphatic about killing other people. And as an American, also, we should take a listen to this. She says, how dare you, America, not, withhold something, even suggest that we can't do something that we want to do. Give me your bombs. Give me your precise missiles. And if you don't, we'll just use our imprecise missiles. And instead of taking out a room, we'll take out 10 buildings. And she kept emphasizing that over and over. We're to the point now. Remember, I told you at the outset, how many times have I showed you where we said something, we were firm, and then Netanyahu or some other Israeli government official basically just said, yeah, whatever, we're going to do whatever we want. You see, this is the result. Now then, they feel like it's an obligation to us to just shut your mouth, do whatever they want, and get the hell out of the way. And now then, with like, how dare you? The audacity of America to actually have its own opinion on what it's going to do with its own resources. That's what she said. Straight up, unambiguous. How dare you withhold something that we demanded of you? Give me what I told you to give me and shut up. And why are we okay with it? Why is that not news? Why is that not all over mainstream news and newspapers and radio shows all over America? This is what they think of you. You talk about how this will harm our opinion, our impression around the world and our credibility. Lindsey Graham and all the others that support not saying no to Israel. It's the opposite. Because we don't ever tell anyone no, Israel, not everyone, or Ukraine as it appears. Now then, they view us as just a bank to go and draw money from, and actually more like a rich uncle because they have no intention of paying it back. They just want more. And then now then they have contempt for us because how dare we say no to them right there? That's where we are, folks. And if you think that's just one wild-eyed person in the Knesset, it's also on mainstream Israeli people and on their mainstream news. That does make their news. And here's just a snippet of what that looks like.
צריך לומר את האמת. אתה אומר, אוי ואבוי, אם נסתמך. כל שני וחמישי ביידן ונתניהו מדברים. בזבוז זמן, סלחו לי. בזבוז זמן, כי אז אתה אומר, אני מסתמך עליו, ואחר כך נתניהו מסביר מה הוא אמר לו, והוא מסביר מה הוא אמר לו. מה זה כל ההסברים האלה? בחייאת, יורים פה טילים עלינו, כמו לא יודע מה, תוריד, תרסק, תגמור, פעם אחת תשתגע. אמרתי פה לפני חודש ולפני חודשיים ולפני 3, שהיינו צריכים להרוג שם 100-150 אלף ביום הראשון, והיה נגמר הסיפור. היום יש כאלה שמתחילים לדבר על זה, כי אתם מבינים שזה מה שהיה צריך לעשות, אבל too late.
ולהרוס את כל הבתים, כל בית שנכנע בדרכך, ובדרכם של גיבורנו, שנמצאים בתוך האש בח'אן יונס, כל בניין להרוס. לעשות שמה חול, כמו חול.
He says, yeah, we should have killed 150,000 Palestinians right away, just slaughtered them. That's what he says. And now he laments that we, quote, lost that opportunity. Then the other person on that television show says, yeah, we should just keep on killing a bunch of people. And in fact, we should turn all of Gaza into a beach. So it's nothing but sand. Wipe everybody out. Did you hear any condemnation of that? I think that was in December, this past December. Did you hear any comment on that in the West? Was it even brought up? Have you even heard about such a thing? And I can assure you, those are just 2 random samples. There's a lot more. But why do we want to keep telling ourselves that we're this great country that cares about people, that stands for the rights of freedom of speech, that stands for freedom all around the world and doing the rules-based international order? Does the rules-based international order actually say kill everybody you don't like? Does it say take a captive civilian population that has no defensive capabilities whatsoever and kill 150,000 of them? I don't remember that part. I didn't go to law school, so maybe I missed something. You see how absurd that is to even say out loud. But that's part of the problem, that you have all the defenders of people who say, yeah, let's keep supporting Israel, the government of Israel, and just don't say anything else. Just be quiet. I mean, you see some of the Republican people are saying that. Of course, there's many Democrats saying the same. This is really not a right-left thing. This is I don't even know. It's just too many people in America that are doing it. So it almost belies any kind of categories. But you see, it's the same thing that the Israelis are saying. How dare you withhold something from us because we want to use it? Don't ask me any questions. Don't care about the civilian population. Just shut up and give me your bullets. I'm just well, I would say speechless, but that's self-evidently not true. I am aghast. I'm angry, and I'm discouraged at the same time, because all of these things continue to build up, and the cost is just getting deeper and deeper and deeper for mankind. Not just the United States, not just for the actual victims of this, the innocent Palestinian people. Because look, long ago, like Bernie Sanders said, like I said earlier, yes, what Hamas did to Israel absolutely deserved a retaliation and a response, an appropriate response. But if that deserved a response, how can you not say that the Palestinian people who are being slaughtered senselessly, innocently, also doesn't deserve a response? You can say it just because we don't want it to be true, but it doesn't change the fact that it's a human condition and a human being. And of course, all of this goes all the way back to the very top. And it's, as you're now seeing, it's not just Benjamin Netanyahu, but he currently does sit at the top. This goes all the way down, which is why he's able to stay in power, because a lot of people agree with him. But here's his view of what the United States has said they don't want him to do and what he's damn well going to do anyway.
Israel will not allow Hamas to return to rule in Gaza. We will not allow them to rebuild their military capabilities and continue their project of destroying us. Israel will not approve any proposal that constitutes a threat to Israel's security and future. For that reason, I have ordered our delegation that went to Cairo to continue to insist on our demand to guarantee our security. In parallel, we will continue our war against Hamas. Our entry into Rafah is a very important step. Our army is on its way to destroy the remainder of their capabilities.
And just let me once again address what should be a glaring, self-evident truth, but isn't. Netanyahu is dead flat wrong. He will be shocked at the end, and his people will pay the price for it. He will not destroy the remains of Hamas when he goes into Gaza, into Rafah, into the southern part of Gaza. He will not make the country secure for his people. He is laying the seeds right now for something far worse than October 7th. The amount of anger and hatred and vilification of Jews, both inside and outside of the Gaza Strip, is off the charts. So much higher than it was on the 6th of October before all this started. He's laying the seeds for their destruction, or certainly a future attack. That could be, it could even be a regional attack. It could be a regional war, because there are so many Arabs throughout the region, despite what their governments are saying, that are seething with anger. The terrorist threat alone, from both inside and outside of the Gaza Strip, for Israel is going to be around for a long, long time to come. You can't undo a lot of the stuff that's already been done. Much of it's too late already. So Netanyahu will go down as one of the most horrific leaders of the Jewish people in our lifetimes, because he is building insecurity for his people. If you really care about the Israeli state, if you're a Republican or a Democrat or anybody else that says, yes, I support Israel, I love Israel and all this, if that's true, you should be number one in line telling them, stop this madness. All it's doing is setting them up for future failure and future security threats, future death of Israeli people. Many of the same people who were cheering so loudly, even within Israel right now, for him to keep going and killing people, has no idea that they're actually laying the foundation for the deaths of their own people later on. That's just how it works. If you know anything about human nature and about the nature of warfare, and especially in that region, you know this is not going to just go away because allegedly 4 battalions in Rafah are, even by any measure taken off the battlefield. That's not going to be the problem. It's going to be much, much bigger than that. But that's where we are right now. No one wants to recognize basic humanity, or not no one. Let me correct it. There are too many that don't even recognize basic humanity, that they don't have any sympathy for these horrific images that Gary keeps showing periodically of these little kids that are starving to death, of old ladies and old men who can't even move. They can't, keep going from place to place, and they get bombed anyway. Many of the times the places they told are safe aren't, and they get bombed anyway. It just keeps happening over and over. And it just grieves me to see so much lack of basic humanity that's going on. And especially because it's coming from the United States of America, what I pledged my life to defend, what I have always been so proud of. I'm still wearing the flag even right now in what I've been doing. I did all the time I was on active duty, and I still do. So I don't take it off because I believe still in the goodness of many Americans and in the promise and in the hope of what can be again. We have gone so far off of it. And I got one last clip I want to show you here. And it's hard for me to play this for a very different reason. What I'm going to show you is what is to me maybe the best speech ever given by an American president. I've been to the side of this speech where it was given at American University in 1963 when I was just a few months old. In June, in fact, June of 1963, at American University, John F. Kennedy gave what was called the peace speech. Now, understand the context at the time and why this was so courageous and so wonderful, because this was in the height of the Cold War. It was 1 year after the 1962 October nuclear war almost vaporized our two countries, the United States and Soviet Union. This came with it was a very courageous deal because there was so much hatred and animosity towards Russians and Soviets. And everybody feared communism and all that. And he's talking about, from a position of strength, peace. This is what characterized America in June of 1963.
The United States, as the world knows, will never start a war. We do not want a war. We do not now expect a war. This generation of Americans has already had enough, more than enough, of war and hate and oppression. We shall be prepared if others wish it. We shall be alert to try to stop it. But we shall also do our part to build a world of peace where the weak are safe and the strong are just. We are not helpless before that task or hopeless of its success. Confident and unafraid, we must labor on, not towards a strategy of annihilation, but towards a strategy of peace.
That's what I want to see us get back to again. I still think it's possible. I don't think that's just a relic of the past. Because I know a lot of the people who are watching this video right now, a lot of people who come to our channel are those kinds of people that they want to see genuine justice. They want to see America actually stand again, to be the city on a hill, the light on a hill. What we have been in the past, what we can be again in the future. And I know there's so many great Americans. I meet them all the time. So I know we're not there yet to where we're irredeemable. But these things are already having consequences. Things that right now, even if we had a dramatic 180-degree turnaround repentance right now, much of the damage that's already been done is going to have consequences that are going to play out no matter what. But we dare not continue going forward. It is, as I said at the beginning, it's like a cancer. These are cancerous cells that I've been showing you right now. And without remedial action, those cancer cells are going to grow. And you've seen them. They have been growing. And the loss of humanity and the increase of wanting to use power to get our way, it's going to increase until one day it has its catastrophic result. And it'll also be us who pays this price. I pray to God in a literal way, not figuratively, that we find within us, or that God allows us to become the better kinds of people that are flawed, people that are sinful, but people that genuinely care about their fellow man, no matter what their nationality, no matter what their ethnicity, just because they're human beings. That we should use our power for good. We should use our power to bring justice and help to those who are helpless, to those who are powerless. That we should use our diplomacy and our diplomatic power to try to bring peace to the world, to bring peoples together, not to dominate, not to tell people what to do, but to help people come together, to have at least a modicum of humility and the recognition that others also have valid positions, and that even if they're different from us, they still can also be quite valid and not be compelled to change because we have more power. All that does is engender more hatred, and eventually it just in human history, it's just always been that way. Eventually, that builds up to some unknown point, and it comes back on your own head. So we have before us today the choice. We can either recognize and that we have cancer and seek treatment and get this taken care of no matter what the cost is so that we can continue to live, or we can turn a blind eye to it and say, no, there's nothing wrong with us at all, and keep running down this road until that cancer metastasizes, and then it's too late. That's the choice before us today, folks. I pray to God that we choose the right one. And we thank you, and we'll see you on the next episode of Daniel Davis Deep Dive.